Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Dana. I am the founder and executive director of Total Woman Empowerment. Today, we are going to be talking about unresolved trauma. Trauma, when explained and learned how to, what is the word I'm looking for? Learned how to redefine and heal and grow larger than our wounds means we live with and we don't die from. So today I want to introduce two beautiful women, and we're just going to have a conversation. We'll start off with talking about what trauma is. We'll talk about the different ways people respond to it, and then we'll talk about how we work through it and how to grow through trauma, how to grow through it. This is Tamika. Hi,
Hello.
Tamika. You want to say hi?
Hello.
And this is Desiree. I've known Desiree for probably 20 years, 15
Yeah.
years at least. And I've known Tamika for at least two. So we're not going to hold you. We're going to get right into it. This is my first time using, what is this thing called? Stream
Yard.
Yard. This is my first time. So there may be some trial and error, but with trial and error comes learning. All right, let's see how we're going to do this. Did I do it? I did.
Yes.
So, Total Woman Empowerment presents Trauma When Explained. We want to welcome everyone. Um, we just want to welcome you today. Um, I just want
Welcome.
you to be a part of it, be a part of the experience. Join us after before I go into our mission, after I'll say there will be a support group for women who just want to come and talk about their experience, or for women who would like support, period. And we'll talk, I'll try to mention more of it. The way you access that, it'll be through the Zoom room. And you'll need to call me because it is a private space. So you'll need to call me to get the password, but the actual number will be on the screen. So our mission is simply to educate women about the effects of trauma. I'm sorry, about the effects of unresolved trauma. Our purpose is so that no person becomes the recipient or the product of another person's trauma. Through understanding, we break the cycle of trauma. So, Tamika, Desiree,
Yes.
want to just really start off with talking about what is trauma, giving an example, or and I'm sorry, not an example, but a definition of um, trauma, exposure to or actual threatened death, serious illness. I'm sorry, did I say illness? I meant to say serious injury, or sexual violence in one or more form. Uh, my words is running together. Let's start that all over again.
It's okay.
Exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence in one or more of four ways. Some of those ways is directly witnessing, watching, learning of, or experiencing repeated or extreme exposure to aversion details. And right off the top, what do you think that is? Let's talk about that. Directly witnessing, learning, experiencing repeated or extreme exposure to aversion details. Talking about trauma.
Well,
Well,
for me, oh, go ahead, Tamika.
for me, I can certainly resonate with all four of those bullet points. Um, it happened to me. My trauma was directly, and then I became a witness to it, and then I was exposed to it, and then I repetitiously started repeating everything that basically I had learned all over it, just going in a cycle, doing it over and over and over again. Different characters, same thing, same story.
Right.
Yes.
What about you, Desiree? Can you tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about that?
I have to agree with Tamika. It's for me, it was like I always mentioned before, is my trauma was being bullied. And that in turn shaped my school, my adolescent, and how I reacted to life. Always on guard. And trauma to me, it kept me in that constant defense.
Yeah.
And so, I was at first, it was directly, and then I witnessed other bullies. And then, and then eventually I turned into that bully for the people that were getting bullied. So, and it was just a vicious cycle.
You
That's what it
know,
looked like.
how old are you?
Me,
Yeah,
I'm 46.
I'm 51. What about you, Tamika?
I'm 41.
And growing up back in our day, well, when in my day, 51 years
Mhm.
old, being bullied was not seen as trauma. So you have a
No.
lot of people who were bullied as a child that's in my
Mhm.
age that now move forward in life. For me, some of my trauma was I grew up was sexually abused as a little girl from 10 to 13 years old, and that was directly. Another one of my own traumas was that I watched my mother be physically abused all of my life. I grew up in the era when I remember the first time they started talking about uh, uh, se- se- physical abuse was when they came out with the burning bed. I don't know. Do you guys remember that movie?
I
That was
Yeah.
do.
like a long time. I bet if we YouTube it, it was probably about 30, 35 years ago.
Mhm.
But back in that time frame, that wasn't considered abuse. That was
No.
just, I would call the police and the police would come and he would pull my stepfather out and talk to him for a minute or two and then go back inside, send my stepfather back inside. My stepfather would continue beating my mother, so that was a way that I witnessed it. That was as a child,
Yeah.
one of the ways of learning I want to look at all of those examples is, uh, so let me say this as well. I spent quite a bit of time in prison. And so when the earthquakes hit and the bridge fell, I was actually incarcerated. And now, when I remember learning of the bridge collapsing, and I actually grew up, I was born and raised in San Francisco, went to Mission High, Francisco Junior High. Wow. Oh, I see some, Molly was letting us know the burning bed. Funny,
1984.
1984. And it was actually in 1986 that I went to prison. So it was around that time that, thank you, Molly, around that time that they started recognizing physical abuse as not okay. But they still hadn't coined, they still hadn't made the connection between that and trauma.
Right.
But I
Mhm.
was talking about how I had learned about the bridge collapsing, and um, so now, and that's been a long time ago. Now, when I drive back and forth over the bridge, I became very nervous, very afraid, scared. I don't know when the next earthquake is gonna hit.
Right.
So that's a type of trauma. Um, and then it talked about experience. Let me go back to the screen. Uh, experienced, repeated. No, experiencing repeated or extreme exposure to aversion details. Um, you know, I almost want to. I don't almost don't want to talk about it because We're not here trying to have a political conversation, a Black Lives Matter conversation, a Me Too Lives Matter, uh, a Me Too movement conversation. We're really just talking about trauma and unresolved trauma. But I look at the police, who every time there's a situation, a lot of times they're going into homes or where there's a lot of violence, where there's a lot of blood. I've actually been blessed with the opportunity about I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago to work with first responders. They didn't know my past experience, and really that wasn't a factor. Um, and they were police officers, uh, firemen, what do you call them, EMTs, people who were first responders who, as a result of their own experiences, had now succumbed to some of the things that result from trauma, like substance abuse. They're people just like anybody else. Addiction is not prejudice. But one of the things we know is going in, seeing these different violent scenes. They're people just like everybody else. And so that creates trauma for them, you know. And when we don't recognize it and we internalize it, then we begin to filter it. So in other words, as we experience our life, we see through the filter of our trauma, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that? What we just kind of talked about. I'm going to put it back on the screen. And for those who may be out there, you are free to share your experience with it. Again, trauma is exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence in one or more of four ways: directly witnessing, learning of, experience repeated or extreme exposure to aversive details. Um, so, what is the process of trauma?
Well, for me, the process of trauma, after being home for 5 years, I have to self-talk. My process is I feel something. I feel like people around me don't have my best interest. So then I get defensive. And then with the defense comes an attitude. And with the attitude comes the mouth. And then it starts going on in my head. And I talk myself out of positive situations that I'm in. It's almost like I self-sabotage. I get to the verge of about to jump off and self-sabotage. And then I say, wait a second, where have you come from? Why are you feeling like this? And it's a whole process. I have to take myself backwards and say, you know what? These people don't know where you came from. They don't know what you're thinking. And you're given attitude and you're going to end up alone. And I have to play that. I have to play that tape. And that's my process of the trauma that I still go through. And I'm, 46 years old. So that's my process.
Thank you. What about you, Rochelle? And you can, I'm saying Rochelle. It's funny I'm saying that because I'm getting a message and I'm trying to multitask. I'm not doing too well, huh?
You're all right.
Go ahead and what about you, Tamika?
Okay, so I don't know. I just feel like, well, everyone's situation is different, and I totally, I'm gonna take ownership of mine as far as, I've never been to prison. I've never been to jail. I kind of feel like I've been so spoiled as to where, from me doing the things that I was doing, I would always get bailed out before I was even booked, and so I just I'm just like not aware of those things. However, I do resonate with the fact that, it totally imprisoned me in my mind, and from my past traumas, as far as I was, touched by someone in my family. It just, it led me to all the things that I did throughout my life, as far as in my younger years. It led me to, prostitution. It led me to not feeling loved. It led me to not loving myself, and, always seeking validation from others when, you
That's good,
know,
Tamika.
I need to, it's a me thing at this point, and um, I just did the same things over and over, different characters, same situation, same circumstances, and I'm free now.
You know,
Um,
I don't want to cut you off, but I sure want to relate with you. Go ahead.
I'm saying I'm free now, and and it got just to the point where I was just so sick of myself, and so sick of, like, have you ever just been just sick of yourself? I was sick, and I just, I just know that there's much more out there for me in this life.
You know, I really just want to, gosh, just relate to you. I can remember just not feeling good enough,
Mhm.
being violated by my own, the people that I trusted, you know, um, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, you know, internalizing my own trauma. Let me take this off because I want to see. Okay, let me see. I want to see it. There it is. I want to see you guys' face. You know, um, just feeling like wasn't good enough, like I wasn't worthy. The only thing I was worthy of is for somebody to be having sex with, not somebody to treat like a lady, not somebody who wanted me in their life. They wanted something from me, but not me in their life. You know, just a little background. I grew up in a really, really violent home. Like I said, where uh, 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 domestic violence was the language. Anger, violence was the language. But from by the time I was 10 years old, my stepfather started having sex with me. You know, and by the time I was 13 years old, and then on top of all that, my mother. We look at now we live in a world where there's all these different diagnoses of these mental health disorders. But there was no mental health disorders or diagnosis or medication for any of that. And in fact, growing up in my home or in my culture, you didn't go see the psychiatrist.
You didn't
No,
air the dirty laundry, that's for sure.
absolutely. You went to the pastor and you sure don't tell the pastor that I just slept the hell out of you.
It was, what goes on in this house stays in this
Stays in
house.
this
This
house. Don't
house.
air the dirty laundry.
The funny thing, that's when we talk about that generational trauma
Yeah.
that passed on. We have these things that took place in our lives that not just took place in our lives, but also took place in our parents' lives and on our parents' lives. And we still live to that code. What goes on in this house stays in this house. The problem is, it's it's horrible in the house. There's abuse in the house. There's emotional abuse. There's physical abuse. There's sexual abuse. And you
Addiction.
want me to addiction, and you want me to keep it here. You want me to not say anything. You want me to internalize it, and not that you intentionally want me to do this, but I internalize it, and then as a result of my internalizing, I grow up with it and I
Yeah,
take it with me in every arena of my life,
that's
unbeknownst to
real.
me, because what goes on in this house stays in this house. So now that code has become a code within myself, within my mind, which means I don't talk about things. And I ultimately die. I ultimately die emotionally. I die mentally. I die physically. I die in my ambitions. I die in my dreams. I die in my hopes, because what goes on in this house stays in this house. And I don't have the liberty to ask for help or to say anything. You
Mhm.
know, let me take a breath, girl, because that was
You
emotional,
know,
right?
and thank you for sharing that, Dana. The I feel that we get strength by talking about it. And it just reminds me of, what the kids these days, like right now, might be going through. They can't, they're locked in. There's no school, there's no outlet. It's heartbreaking because we are never going to know until we meet them in meetings what's going on,
You
and
know,
what they're going to cry about.
yeah. And I just really want to acknowledge Wendy. Um,
Yeah.
I think you probably was in the same house as I was at, because if you don't talk about it, then it didn't happen. The thing is, it did happen.
Yeah.
It happened, and it continues to happen. It happens every time I go into a relationship, because everything that took place in my life, I take it with me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about I really want to talk about the how. Let me, like I said, I'm new at this, so we're working it out. I'll be real fluid by the next time. So the different reactions to trauma, some of the things, how do different people respond to trauma? Fight, flight, or freeze.
Woo! All
So
those. Oh,
either you have people that go off, um, people that freeze with the flight. They just leave the building. I remember hearing someone tell me, "You can't always leave every situation." Yes, I can.
yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Watch
I
me.
can. I did. I will. But I didn't realize that was a way that I was dealing
Right.
with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Medea always talks of, not Medea, Tyler Perry's Medea. How he said, things covered don't heal.
Yeah.
That's right.
And until I was into a place in my life where I could uncover that,
Yeah.
then I could begin healing and stop running. And so fight, flight, or freeze is a way, the one way, some ways people react to it, an altered state of consciousness, meaning they're either in a zone. I remember when my stepfather would jump on my slow down, girl. I remember when my stepfather would jump on my mother. As a child, I would be running, screaming, going off. He's hurting my mom. He's, just trying to jump on him. I would run out the house screaming. I would grab his leg. I was so little, he would just fling me. Um, but my little brother, he would sit on the bed and he would stare off in space as if he was literally watching a TV program.
Yeah.
Like and I dare not diagnose him at that time as disassociation. I dare not,
Yeah.
because I don't have that credential. But I would certainly say that he separated.
Yes.
He totally blocked it out, ignored it, like nothing was going on. That was his coping skill to deal with what was going on in this house. And the funny thing, when we talk, um, he talks about how those things never happened. Like he says that I'm crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, those things never happened. And for him, it didn't happen because he wasn't even there. You
Yeah.
are so right, Wendy. He was never even there. He left, you know. And so, yeah, our body sensations. um, I know that I can't no longer watch, like I love football. I can't watch it. I can't watch a movie like boxing, any type of violent movie. I can't watch it because I can actually feel the physical impact in the body. So those are those body sensations. Another way we react to trauma is through numbing, hypervigilance, hyperarousal, collapse. And going back to, and then I want to hear from you guys, but going back to the police, there's that hypervigilance. There's that hyperarousal.
Mhm.
When they put on a suit, they automatically, it's really, really sad because,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sad because they're really in a, and then not to excuse none of the things that they're doing. This is not a window for excuse, but you can't change what you don't acknowledge. And they
Right.
probably have no idea
No.
that they are even operating in unresolved trauma, trauma from 5 years ago, police scene.
Yeah.
You know, your
So
thoughts,
basically,
lady.
you're saying they should be certified therapists, you know?
No, I'm saying
That
there
they
needs
need
to
one,
be
that they
some,
need coping skills too.
they really need to
Mhm.
understand the impact of the effects of their job.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, like the moment they put on, because of the experiences they have, going back to that repeated experience or exposure to aversion details, going back to those events or experiences, that event and experience now puts an impression on their brain. Trauma actually changes the structure
Mhm.
of the brain. So that experience, if you don't have any awareness, it's like getting in the car with some blindfolds on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, they're operating in unresolved trauma and they don't even realize it or know it. So when you go, and again, I'm not talking about some of the things that we've been seeing on TV. I'm not talking
Mhm.
about that. I'm talking about when they go and they're in this situation where there's no where they have to make a judgment call. Their judgment is operating out of trauma,
Yeah.
unresolved trauma, and trauma changes, it's the structure of the brain. It's just like substance abuse, how it affects our
Mhm.
judgment.
Yeah.
Whew, girl, I'm
There's
getting
there's
tapped.
a point to where it's desensitized, and you see every addict as the same addict. You see every violent situation as the same violent situation. Oh,
Yes,
she popped off at the mouth and he smacked her, or he was cheating and she stabbed him. It they start seeing
and
it as the
yes,
same.
and
Hmm.
what it is I agree with you. They seeing it as the same, but what it is
Hmm.
they're seeing it out the same filter,
Yeah.
because their
Yeah.
trauma now serves as a filter. Those
Hmm.
glasses that you have on, if you put on some sunglasses,
Hmm.
then it will look, your vision is going to look different. Your
Hmm.
vision is going to look different.
Yeah.
And my sister is just joined. Hi, sister. I love you. Isn't that just like a person to get distracted by family? So, what do you guys think? What is your take on some of these things? We're talking about the reaction to trauma.
I think that it personally has it boils up, and just from my experience, my reaction to trauma was me constantly doing the same things over and over and over again, and getting with these people, these men that that I was seeking validation from, but they never meant any good for me. And I have to say, you know, I am a brain aneurysm survivor. June the 4th, 2016, I had a brain aneurysm.
Wow.
I was hit in the head by someone. My head hit the hotel bathroom toilet, and I guess a blood clot. I had went to the hospital that night and I got stitches, and I guess a blood clot had formed in my head, and I just was going, you know, going to
Wow.
work, just running, running. That's what I do when I'm running from myself. And blood clot had formed, and one night, I'll be honest, the night I chose to go back out and to use again, that blood clot in my brain had bursted, and it was the worst headache ever that you can imagine. I can't even explain it or describe it. It was the worst
Wow.
headache ever. I was in the hospital for a month, and it was just, I would be a fool to continue talking to this person, you know. I just don't want to live like that, you know. So I totally can resonate with every single last thing. And as far as like the numbing, you know, it got to the point where when I was doing what I was doing, and I was, you know, I was escorting, and I was all of these things except for myself, and I was all of these things that I had learned as I was growing up, you know. I had like six different phones. I was six different people, and I was up on the website, you know. I put six different people, and I'm answering six different phones, and I just really didn't even know who I was, you know. So I understand with the disassociation. I didn't know who I was, you know. I would numb myself out. I would totally take myself out of my body, out of myself, so that this
How,
person can have
how
pleasure.
did you do that?
I just,
Like, how
I,
did you take your? Did you use drugs?
that,
Did you use
yes, I did.
relationships? What was the method by which you used?
I used whatever I could to not feel, you know, from it being drugs, from it being toxic relationships. That's what would get me by. That's what I thought living was about, my living. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong.
Yeah.
Um, to where I just kept doing the same thing over and over again.
Mhm.
It's because we have no we don't recognize it. That's why it's really important, you know, and I really just want to hone in on unresolved trauma. I mean, it's not trauma in and of itself, you know, because if you keep living in the world, something is going to create some type of situation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's unresolved, unmet, unacknowledged, untreated, you know, not worked through.
Yeah. I never got an apology. I never, you know, or anything. And like a couple of years ago, um, the person that had created all of everything that I've been through, well, helped to create, you know, I take ownership in my part, in my actions too, because I'm grown at this point, passed away. And for the first time, I felt like I could live. That I don't have to do any of that anymore. I don't have to live like that anymore. I don't have to feel like that. I don't have to sell my body anymore. I feel like I can live. I
Like
feel
almost,
free.
yeah, like almost that thing died with that
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
yeah. You know, I never
Girl,
thought like
whoa.
that.
Ha-
It was time. It was time to go.
Hallelujah.
Hmm.
Wow. What about you, Desiree?
Wow. My mind went all the way back to, you know, I was a little bit older when the one person that I thought dearly of, I was probably like 15, And I trusted him with everything. And we used to rip and run the streets together. And he made a sexual advance to me, and I didn't understand. Even at 15, I was like, what just happened? Yeah, so that is the turning point of my life, to where I was hypervigilant. I everybody was a suspect. Everybody was not to be trusted. And I didn't tell nobody. That was, my mom's baby brother. That was my, my older uncle. And, he, had an accident. So everybody justified his dumbness with, oh, he was in a coma, or, they always gave him an excuse. So I never told nobody, I never told nobody, but it made me dive into the alcohol.
Desiree, there's some type of echo going on. Do you have your phone or what's going on? There's a echo.
No, let me see. How about now?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, no, it's okay. It's okay. So, I hear it. It's I don't have nothing else on. Nothing. Okay, go ahead.
Ooh. It's got to be your phone, sweetie, or your Facebook. Look at your Facebook thing, see if it's off. You said you had another computer on.
All right, let's see.
So,
okay, how about now? Is that better?
No.
Yeah, I don't have nothing else on.
So I'm gonna mute you. Let's see. Is something going on with you? No, maybe not. Because now I hear it. Anyway, I'm going to keep talking because that just seems like a distraction from the enemy. As soon as I say hallelujah,
Yeah,
we'll start getting some feedback. Go on.
Yeah. So anyways, I dove into the alcohol even more so. I dove into the drugs, I didn't sleep anymore. And, next thing you know, I felt like I had to just get away. I had to numb, and I had to shut down, and I just went on this madness of a rampage. And by the time I was 17, that's when I had my daughter, and then I had my son when I was 19, and then I was still crazy in my addiction, and I never realized it, but it's because I was deeply betrayed, by the one person I trusted. And so I went to prison, and the victim was his girl that he was seeing. And I allowed something to happen that I could have stopped, but I didn't. And I had to struggle with that my whole life. Like, did I do this because of what he did to me? And 21 years later, I realized, yes, it was. Because of what he did to me, I had to make him pay. And I had to make him suffer. And after all this time, and it was my attorney that kept having me do essays after essays, and I was just like, man. And then I just was so relentless with my self-help groups, and I had to know the answers, because I didn't want to be the person that I was. So long story short, after 21 years, and now I'm home 5 years after, and I see the same man, and he's suffering so bad mentally that I feel the need to, I forgave him, of course, because he's sick. He was sick in the head, and he's still sick in the head. But I had to find it in myself to forgive him. And I don't know, probably just and it wasn't giving him a pass. It was, I don't know, that somewhere in my heart, my forgiveness for him, like even today, I'm helping him. I'm driving him to church. I mean, it's I don't even know. I don't know. I just know it's God.
Yeah.
That's all.
I was having a reaction to, I'm putting my head out, I don't mean to. I was having a reaction to, I was really just listening to you, Tamika, talking about when he died.
Yeah.
that thing, that weight lifted off, like my sister talked about right here. She said a lot of weight lifted. I was just really thinking about how, because I actually confronted my stepfather. Um, I confronted him on three different occasions. When I first got to prison, um, I was taking a group called the Courage to Heal, and I wasn't emotionally matured as of yet. But and this goes into our next segment about and I really want to just bring that up. Let me do that right now. It goes into our next segment of growing stronger than our wounds. You know, I'm not sure what that sound is. I'm thinking it's somebody's volume a little too loud. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep talking. Um, at any rate, so I was taking this class called The Courage to Heal. I'm gonna cut you guys off and see what happens. I was taking this class called The Courage to Heal, and I was calling my stepfather because I wanted to confront him on the sexual abuse, and he kept avoiding me. So what I did was I wrote him, and then I waited until I knew he got the letter, and then I called when my mother wasn't there because I knew he was gonna have to answer the phone. And then so I asked him about it, and then he said I wasn't very articulate. So even in and of that self, because I grew up, we grew up with an educated, in education was key. And so by him just talking about my manner of delivering, my confronting your abusing me, that was his way of putting me in a box. Or, yeah, that was his way of not
Mhm.
acknowledging his stuff. The second time I addressed it, I had grown a little bit more in myself, in my maturity, and worked through. Uh, I'd worked through some more issues in my life, and gosh, my mind is escaping me. I don't remember the second time I confronted him, what the circumstances were, but I remember the third time. The third time my mother had died. This was in 2000, and I was in prison. And so he was coming to visit me faithfully, like the clock, every holiday. I could tell. I mean, I knew he was coming by every 3-day holiday. And so I had been doing some work, and I had been doing work on the abuse in my life. I had been journaling. I had been validating myself, letting myself know that I didn't deserve that and it wasn't my fault. And I was just doing some work, doing some self work, difficult work. And I confronted him. I confronted the abuse, and I asked him, I don't know if I asked him why, or I don't know. I just confronted him. And how I confronted him was I confronted him on the abuse that he would put upon my mother, the domestic violence. And my mother had just died. Now, don't get me wrong, my mother was super, super abusive, but I loved my mother. That was my mother, period. You know, um, I don't know what it is. It's almost like a puppy love.
Yeah.
It's loyal to the end, even when you're not loyal to me. Um,
Mhm.
and I asked him about her. I asked him, why did you do all that? And you know what he told me? He said, you don't know some of the things your mother did, as if to justify his actions.
Right.
Well, that really upset me. She was my mother. She never deserved to be beat up. And as the adult in the home, you had a responsibility to the children. So I asked him, well, what about the sexual abuse? He couldn't say anything. He couldn't say anything. But I said all that to say this. I got to a place in my life where I realized I no longer needed him to heal. I no longer needed him to validate what he had did. Exactly. Gas lightning. Thank you, Wendy. I no longer needed him to validate what he did to me because, yeah, I didn't need it. And I didn't need him to heal. So when you talked about him dying and that weight dying, I thought about how the sexual abuse, when you sexually abuse a child, that child almost dies. You know, that child's spirit, that child's heart in the moment. Go ahead.
No, I totally, I mean, I agree, but for so long, I mean, I was like 30 something years old and everything, I was still looking like that child. I was like,
Yeah.
I did not grow up within myself. It was weird. Um,
Mm.
Now I look my, I can look my age, maybe still a little bit younger. However, but like I was like a grown woman, still looking like a child. It was, it's been strange, just like
Yeah.
all my life experiences. I was a grown woman, still looking like that little girl.
And you know, what we know is when a child, or not a child, but when a person is experiences trauma or they begin using substance abuse, they stunt their emotional growth is stunted and their mental growth is stunted. So if you go back and you look at a
Yes.
13-year-old and the way a
Mhm.
13-year-old behaves and responds and look at the similarities, you can see that.
Mhm.
And Tanya, my sister, this is my heart right here, says that was not right. And I'm so sorry for you and the rest of you ladies that had to go through that. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you,
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Tanya.
Tanya.
And so we share our story and our experiences because it is that our goal that no child or no person becomes a
Yeah.
recipient or the product of another person's trauma. And so the conversation has to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Unresolved trauma. It has to start. You know, yeah, it has to start somewhere so that we can start the conversation and the conversation can grow. You know, the funny thing, I went to prison for a long time because of not being aware. Well, let me say this. I went to prison because of my actions and my behaviors right off the top. Let me start with saying that. But I had no idea what drove my actions and my behaviors. I didn't understand that my belief systems and that my thought process that was shaped and framed and filtered in that trauma drove my thoughts and my behaviors and my actions. And so, but I'm acutely aware that there's people out here in the world that are in the same prison, except their prison don't didn't look like my prison,
Yeah.
you know, because of their trauma, because of their belief systems, because of their thoughts, you know.
Yeah.
So what needed to happen for you? Now we're talking about, I want to go back, redefining the experience of trauma, giving up the hope that the past could be any different. That is such a profound statement. What do you mean giving up the hope that the past could be any different?
Acceptance.
You know, for
Acceptance.
me, I don't really, I think everything was supposed to be the way that it was because that's what you call life.
Yeah.
So, I question things as far as, why me? Of course, why did I have to be the one to,
Yeah.
but now it's just me winning from it, me growing from it, and me
Yeah.
hopefully being able to help others from it, so that they don't have to do things that I do. But so I don't have any hope for that. Right now I have hope for a better future for myself and a better future, me being an example for my daughter, so she doesn't have to do the things that I did, and subjected to do, and the things that I learned. And I just I'm in the moment more so,
Yeah.
and I want to look forward and not dwell on that. Now I went through the process as far as I was able to forgive, but then I noticed after his passing, I noticed myself walking down the street one day. I just got off work. This was before I had a car. I was on the bus of Pat and Turner, pat one foot and turn the other.
Listen, Chevrolet,
Um,
shift one foot and lay the other.
exactly. And I just broke out crying, and I guess I always be having to find a reason for something, but I was so sorry for him because he never got a chance to say sorry. It was just like I could not stop. I couldn't even control it. I couldn't calm myself down. I had to step aside on the sidewalk and just
Hallelujah. Go ahead,
be
girl. Talk on.
sorry that I never that that I, I don't even know how to explain it. But I was sorry that he never got to say sorry and man up to the situation. And so now I'm just living in my truth. I'm just living in my truth.
You
That
know,
had
and
the biggest effect on me in my life, that it shaped my whole life. Like what I learned at that age, I was like 6 years old till I was like 12 or 13. I was removed from the home when I was 15 years old for the situation, and I just was so mean to people. I was running amok. Oh my gosh. Then I realized wherever I go, I still gotta take me with me.
yeah,
Right.
I still gotta take Tamika with me. So
yeah. It's funny. One of the things I know is that people see what we do, but they don't see why we do what we do. And that's not an excuse. And I say that because I think about my own past experiences and all the decisions I've made, my poor judgment. But today in my life, I have an understanding of how that came to be. You see, I wasn't born to do the things I've done. No, I was created perfect. Perfect. I was created perfect. But over time, there was some contorting and some shaping, and there was some influencers in my life that had some that I like to say this. When I went to court, people saw the knife I used, but what they didn't see was the other hands that was on the knife. They only saw mine. If that makes sense. And so I'm saying that to say this: how wonderful it is when we can heal to a place where I can see the people that hurt me, and I can feel sad for them. I
Yeah.
can feel sad because I know that you wasn't born that way. How did
Yeah.
you get there? How did you get there? What happened? And that's not to give you a pass or to excuse you.
Right.
It's just to invalidate and recognize that you were not created like that. I go back to our belief systems, our distorted belief systems. That's why I can speak to, um, like, there's a lot of things going on in the world. And I don't want to give my opinion on it because everybody got an opinion. But I will say this: racism, I think, was birthed in trauma.
Yeah.
Abuse, I think, was birthed in trauma.
Yeah.
Substance abuse, I think, was birthed in trauma. Pedophiles or pedophilia, I think, was birthed in trauma. So, how do we get rid of all that stuff? I think we stopped trying to, I don't want to say stop because I believe everything. Let me just stop judging my own thoughts. I think we address the trauma.
Hey, yes.
Yes, we need to address the other things, but we also have to look at that,
Yeah.
you know. So Desiree, tell me what your thoughts are on, let me see, let me get over here, on giving up the hope, wow, that the past could be different.
Yeah, for me, I had to accept. My key was acceptance. And I had to accept everything for how it was. And again, I know I keep my I'm around my uncle, so he has a chance to make amends, you know, and because I don't want him to go to hell. I just want to let him know that what he did, you know, ruined me pretty much. But then it yeah, I'm caught up in this whole. This is a great meeting, by the way.
This
This is
topic
great.
is amazing, huh?
It
So
is. It's
that's
very
actually
amazing. But
a,
yeah.
that's actually a really good place for us to break.
Mhm.
Desiree, I want to just kind of hone in a little bit on talking about forgiveness and
Yeah.
learn to self.
Mhm.
I don't know what I was trying to say there, but my thoughts is
I
learning
get it.
forgiveness and learning self acceptance. That's
Yeah.
what I'm believing that I was going at that. My
I had
road
to
coach
accept it
Darlene
wasn't
was
my
supposed to
fault.
help me with that. So, but listen, I want to thank you all. Our time is coming short. It's 6:57. I'm being really mindful of the time. I want to thank everyone who came. And was a part of our conversation. Those who shared, gave some feedback. I want to just thank you. I want to thank my sister. I want to thank my sister. Let me just share this with you. That's my baby sister. She ain't no
Oh,
baby. That's my baby sister. And I've
yeah.
never met her in my life. I've been in prison.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, girl, I'm going to get on a plane and go down to Houston eventually. Just not today.
Oh,
Yeah.
see,
So I want to thank my sister for just
the
coming and
support.
supporting and just
Oh,
being a part of this. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you,
mhm.
Tanya. And thank you for those who may not have shared or commented. We will be having a support group for those who would like to participate. Let me put this. I didn't even. Oh, no, at the screen. I forgot to put that one on the screen. Um, if you would like to attend the support group, it is complimentary. It is a private support group. I will be there, me and myself and the ladies, uh, Tamika and Desiree will be there for the next hour. If you would like to come and my sister said I better come down. I see you. I see you. And I'm glad that you really enjoyed it. So if you guys would like to attend the support group, you're more than welcome. This is the Zoom link. I probably should have put it on sooner. I forgive me. Like I said, this was my first uh, StreamYard meeting. I will be better next time. I don't think I was bad this time. At any rate, this is the phone number. Call me. I can give you the password. Okay. So I'm going to leave it up for a few more minutes. The broadcast is going to end in about 3 minutes. Thank you, everyone, again. And thank you, ladies, for coming. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go to the group room, okay? The Zoom link. So that way, if other people come, you'll be there. I'll be there in a few minutes, okay? I love you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Dana.
All right. Did you guys want to say anything else? Lobster
Nope.
left.
Okay, no, thank
All
you.
right. All right. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. If you all liked what you heard, if you think this conversation should go on more, please like, please share the video. Please get the word out. We will be here next week, same time, same place, same wonderful channel. So invite others. Hi, Wendy.